It has been one hell of a run, Intel, but your time has finally come. For seemingly decades now, Intel has been the leader and gold standard in the chipset space, with their chips being the go-to option for all forms of computing technology. With this came an extreme degree of complacency. If we look at the last 10 generations of Intel chipsets, they all have one thing strongly in common, and that is the presence of the x86 architecture. Although this continues to be an industry standard, with, for example, our entire gaming libraries depending on the presence of this architecture to run them, it is starting to show its age. The first and biggest problem with this is that it is horribly inefficient, generating a massive amount of heat to be dissipated and pulling an immense amount of power per unit of processing output. This very point is where the inefficacy of this architecture really shines through, and is why Apple, for example, has completely abandoned Intel and x86 years ago and opted for the new ARM-based M series of chips. So with this, why is Intel not scrambling to revamp their entire chipset lineup to feature an ARM architecture? That is a question with a not so simple answer. The most unbelievable thing to me is that Intel has continued to go on record saying that ARM is an insignificant threat to Intel and the x86 platform as a whole. This is quite wild to me, as the performance of these ARM chips is beginning to far exceed that of its x86 counterpart, especially in performance per watt. In that regard, there is simply zero competition. Like I mentioned before, Intel is likely drawing on these conclusions due to lack of global optimization for ARM chips, much like what exists for x86, given the dominant presence of that architecture throughout the industry. But within the last year, since the article I quoted came out, ARM has begun to sweep the entire industry, with it again taking over most of the Apple ecosystem in their iPads, Macs, and AR headset, and also moving to take over the Android side of the house, with Snapdragon also moving in the ARM direction. As these chips are beginning to saturate the market, developers are rapidly beginning to develop and focus on ARM computing. With this, many things like video games, which traditionally were developed only on the x86 architecture, will start to become optimized for ARM, and the competitive edge that Intel used to have will slip away. At this point, Intel will only be relevant for historic use cases like older mainframe architecture and playing retro games, for example, before optimization for ARM came along. This transition will likely take time, but it will be a massive win for the entire industry. With that, do I think Intel is going anywhere? No, absolutely not. But their ability to stay relevant in the long term is going to be contingent on their ability to rapidly transition to ARM, rather than trying to hold out on what is becoming a very antiquated architecture. I hope you all liked this video. If you did, please do like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. I'll see ya.